In the wake of what palace insiders are calling an unprecedented institutional reassertion, King Charles has quietly but decisively removed Queen Camilla's extended family from their long-time residence within Sandringham House. The Parker Bowles family, who have occupied the east wing of the Royal Norfolk estate for nearly 2 decades, have been given formal notice to vacate within 6 months. But this is not simply a property dispute. This is a direct signal about who controls the monarchy and who no longer does. This isn't just about accommodation or real estate. This concerns the deepest institutional question facing the modern crown: whether the monarchy will bend to family pressure or whether it will stand by principle, even when that principle costs the king his marriage's stability. Today we're examining the timeline of the Sandringham arrangement, why the Parker Bowles family held such privileged access, what triggered Charles's decision in early 2026, how Camilla responded in private, what this means for the perception of the royal institution, and what sources closest to the situation believe will happen next. Let's dive in. To understand the weight of this decision, you need to understand Sandringham itself. The Norfolk estate has been a royal retreat since 1862. It is where the late Queen Elizabeth spent her private Christmases. It is where Prince Philip lived his final years. It is a place of such institutional significance that decisions made there carry constitutional weight far beyond property management. When King Charles and then Camilla Parker Bowles began their relationship in the 1980s, there was public scandal. When they married in 2005, years after Princess Diana's death, there remained institutional skepticism. Camilla was not born royal. Her family, despite significant wealth and social standing, were always technically outsiders, brought into the fold through her marriage alone. Decades later, in 2009, a decision was quietly made. The Parker Bowles family, Camilla's children from her first marriage, her sister Annabel, and select extended members, were granted residential access to what was then called the East Cottage complex at Sandringham. This was, according to royal biographer Ingrid Seward, an extraordinary gesture of acceptance. It signaled the monarchy was willing to integrate her family into its private institutional life. For 17 years, that arrangement held. The Parker Bowles family used Sandringham as a private retreat. Staff accommodated their presence. They attended family gatherings. They became, in effect, semi-residents of a royal estate, an honor extended to virtually no one outside the immediate bloodline. But by late 2025, sources close to the king suggest his patience had begun to fracture. It began, according to multiple insiders, not with a single incident, but with what one royal commentator called a pattern of institutional overreach. The Parker Bowles family had begun treating Sandringham less like a privilege granted and more like a right inherited. What no one outside the immediate palace circle understood, not the staff, not the extended family, not even Camilla herself until February, was that Charles had been documenting every perceived breach of protocol. A source with direct knowledge of palace administration revealed to the Daily Mail that there had been repeated instances of family members attempting to influence decisions about the estate itself. There were suggestions about renovations, complaints about staff assignments, and what one palace official described as attempts to control the narrative around their use of the property. But it was not the property disputes themselves that triggered the ban. It was something far more calculated. In mid-January 2026, according to sources close to William and Kate, a conversation occurred between King Charles and Prince William regarding the future shape of the slimmed-down monarchy. The new model requires clarity about who has access to which properties and why. Every exception creates complications. Every privilege extended to one family member demands justification to another. The Parker Bowles arrangement had become, in Charles's view, a relic of his own need for family peace, a concession he had made years earlier that now undermined the very institutional discipline he was trying to impose across the entire royal machinery. On February 19, 2026, according to sources who have reviewed the correspondence, King Charles's private secretary sent a formal letter to the Parker Bowles family. The language was courteous. The message was absolute. The residential arrangement would terminate in August of 2026. The family would retain visiting privileges, but permanent residence was no longer available. Camilla, sources say, was not shown the letter before it was sent. The Queen's reaction, according to a palace insider who spoke to Closer Weekly on condition of anonymity, was immediate and severe. She felt blindsided. More than that, she felt it was a betrayal of decades of loyalty. There is genuine affection between Charles and Camilla. Sources close to both have confirmed this consistently. But affection and institutional authority are not the same thing. And for the first time in his reign, Charles has chosen institutional authority over personal peace. Camilla's frustration centers on what she views as the hypocrisy of the decision. While her family is being removed from one estate, other royal families retain multiple properties. Other extended members enjoy privileges that seem to her far less earned than her own family's presence at Sandringham. Yet here is what makes Charles's position unassailable. He is correct, constitutionally speaking. Properties held in the Crown Estate belong to the institution, not to the King personally. The King may grant access, but the King may also revoke it. To do otherwise would weaken the entire institutional framework he has spent his reign trying to strengthen. One source close to both figures told OK magazine, Charles recognizes that being king means making decisions that displease even those closest to you. Camilla understands this intellectually. She does not accept it emotionally. What this decision reveals is a king willing to absorb personal cost for institutional clarity. It suggests that Charles's reformation of the monarchy is not rhetorical. It is structural. He is not simply talking about modernization and accountability. He is implementing it, even when it creates friction with his own wife. For Camilla, this is a moment of reckoning. Her position as Queen Consort, a title, not a role with defined constitutional power, has been fundamentally clarified. She has symbolic weight, not institutional leverage. For the broader monarchy, this sets a precedent. No one, not even the king's immediate family, is above the rules being established for the new institution. The question now is whether this will deepen the rift between the king and queen consort, or whether it will eventually be understood as the necessary act of a leader prioritizing the crown above all else. What do you think drove Charles to this decision? Should the king have consulted Camilla privately before sending the formal notice? And what does this reveal about where real power lies within the modern royal institution? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this breakdown helpful, like, subscribe for more royal updates, and check out our next investigation into William's private meetings with senior palace staff.